This program is designed to provide general information with regards to the subject matters covered. This information is given with the understanding that neither the hosts, guests, sponsors, or station are engaged in rendering any specific and personal, medical, financial, legal, counseling, professional service, or any advice. You should seek the services of competent professionals before applying or trying any suggested ideas.
Hi, welcome to the Sound of Gold. I'm so glad you're here, and I'm so glad I'm here. And we are here another week. The Sound of Gold is about music, musicians, music venues, music teachers, and music schools. My whole purpose for doing this is to keep music alive. Music is all around us all the time. And no matter what the sounds are, it's a form of music. There's a vibration. And getting a little bit deeper into vibration, you know, if you hear a song, whether it's happy or sad, you kind of groove with it because it grooves with your emotions. And emotions vibrate on depending on how you feel and how you think, and but mostly how you feel. With that being said, I'd like to kind of focus on the instrument of the piano today. And I personally am a piano teacher. I also perform and play, and I play other instruments, but this is my favorite instrument. It's my go-to instrument. And as I'm here in my home studio at my piano, I want you to think about maybe if you were to play an instrument, if you don't already, what instrument would you play? And where in your community would you go for lessons? And if you don't already know some venues out there that you can go and meet music people, music friends, like at open mics and at restaurants that have live music, they are out there. So depending on where you're tuning in from, where you're listening from, no matter what level skill you are at when it comes to playing a music instrument, sorry, like thinking before I speak here, it doesn't matter what level you're at. We all, even myself, like to be around music, be around musicians and live music especially, and have the opportunity to get better at what we know, or even if we're just beginning learning an instrument. It's good to have connections that are in your community and they're not far. It's usually just on the web, or a friend can recommend it, or recommend someone in your community. So I'm excited, especially for today's show, because I have a special guest on. And as I mentioned, we're focusing on the piano. So my special guest lives in South Florida, I believe lives in or has their facility in Boca Raton, Florida. And Jovian, are you backstage? Would you join us if you are?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes. How are you?
Good. And yourself?
Good. Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you for the invitation. Pleasure to be here.
Yes, and here we are in South Florida, and Florida is usually the sunny state, but we woke up with a chill this morning. Right, it was about 49 degrees.
Beautiful weather. I wish it was like this all year round.
It is beautiful weather for me for a day or two. I'm good with it, but then, yeah, but it is a nice change. Absolutely. You know, Jovian, we've met over the years. We're involved in piano. We're involved in inspiring students. We are the teachers. We give a gift that we get to share because we're so passionate, and not just me and you, but all teachers out there. We do it out of passion. It's not like, oh, like this is like doctor salary or lawyer salary. I think as a teacher, you kind of overlook that because it's not about the salary. It's about what we can give to the community, what we can give our students, what we can provide from our heart and our passion, and I don't want to make it about earning a living, but I want to focus on like your purpose. You are a piano teacher, and what I learned also just now was a piano tuner as well. But I want to go to I would love for you to share with our audience what inspired you from a very early age to have you grow into this profession, this career. What inspired you? Where did you all begin with this?
Well, no, well, thank you. I think a lot of us, we always have a background. Me personally, I started when I was younger. But if you want to go back to the very beginning, I think I remember when I first wanted to take music lessons. I mentioned it to my mom, but I didn't want to start with piano. Actually, I wanted to start with drums. Um,
Okay.
the movie at the time that was all about drums, and I started playing drums when I was a kid, like around the house, beating and everything. So my mom looked into music lessons. She's like, you know what? No, you're not going to play drums. That's too noisy. You're going to play piano. So I started with piano lessons at that time when I was around, I want to say 12 years old or so.
Okay.
So I started a little bit later than a lot of other students.
Mhm.
But yeah, I started to pick up piano rather quickly. Through the years, I found out when I was a freshman in high school about the Dreyfus program for
Okay.
the arts for piano. So I worked along working on some pieces. I auditioned, I got accepted. And I have to say, Dreyfus is actually where I really started to change as far as music goes. I mean,
Okay.
the level of education there for music's on a whole different level. I had different piano teachers before, but the teachers there are the ones who truly inspired me. We had amazing teachers at the time, Dr. Lawton, Stephanie Katz, but I have to say there was one teacher in particular where he actually was the one who inspired me to get into teaching. And he was our theory teacher,
Okay.
a phenomenal piano teacher as well. But Pedro Hernandez, he would make everything so fun and so enjoyable, and actually would explain music in a way that made sense. So when I was younger, when I was doing all these years of piano, I had a very good ear, and I would pick
Okay.
up everything by ear. Not perfect pitch, but relative. Like I can figure out most of the notes. So I never truly learned how to read. I never truly understood theory until I started working in Dreyfus. And that one teacher, Mr. Hernandez, changed everything for me. I actually had a joy now learning, understanding how simple music was. As I was like, wow, I wish
Sure.
other teachers can explain music this way. And so that definitely inspired me. And I started, in high school, I started with a few other family friends. I started teaching their kids. And little by little, it just built up. They enjoyed the way I would teach too. And yeah, funny enough, I have one of my very first students. She's now a piano teacher as well. And she already graduated from FAU.
Oh, how great is that? That's
hmm
awesome. And I had gone, I think last year I went to through MTNA, Music Teachers Association or National Association here in Palm Beach County. Um, there was a thing at Dreyfus, and we got to take a tour. And it was my first time there. And I don't know, whoever's tuning in, whether you live in Florida or not, I'm sure there's a music school in your community you can look into. But Dreyfus, particularly in Palm Beach County, I was blown away. I thought to myself, how can I like rewind my life so I can be a student here in this school? They are so focused and so structured, and in a sense they're very hardcore because they're so in alignment with their purpose for teaching music. But at the same time, I mean, that's what keeps us on track. I mean, look at yourself.
Yeah, no,
And
it's a phenomenal school. So for any parents who are thinking about it, definitely I could recommend it more than any other school I've gone to. It's definitely one of the schools that really inspired me. It changed me, and it helps you learn skills on a completely different level. So I can speak at least for the piano program there. I know all the programs are great, but the piano program is at such a high caliber. It's really what changed me from just being an okay musician to really leveling up my skills so much and then taking more steps and to get into the profession.
And what's beautiful about this as well is that it's not like your regular elementary school where everybody's um, there with different ideas and different focuses and kind of not really knowing, what's going to become of them in the years to come. And I mean that in respect for, like, what's my career going to be? I don't know. I'm just going to school. Like, Dreyfus is all about, like I said, focus. And everybody's like-minded, whether you play the piano or the drums or guitar or violin or flute, it's still all about music. So if you're in the cafeteria with, 100 different kids, you're all not so different because you're all, calibrating musically.
Oh yeah. And especially even aside from the academic and educational aspect, just the fact that I remember I got in my junior year. So I was at a different high school before. So
Okay.
years at Palm Beach Central at a different school, comparing other public schools to this one, just as a young person, if you're out, having lunch, as you were saying, the subjects of what other kids are talking about, half the time they don't care about school. So they're either talking about parties or a bunch of other things. But at Dreyfus, it would be interesting because all of your peers, they're focused on their music or their art, or if they have a new play that's coming, and they're focused on those things. So just as far as, an educational standpoint and at the same time, a safe environment, I felt it was so much better of an environment for young ones to not have so much problems like other public schools have, because everybody's there is focused. And if you're not, if there's consequences. If you're not an exemplary student, they will kick you out. So definitely, it's a great place to have a wholesome association and a great education for young ones who are going to high school.
And I don't even know the half of it. And you've been there. I was so inspired just by my first visit there. And yes, I admire the fact you got to go there as a student. And yeah, it's just phenomenal. I have to apologize for my guests out there and you as well. If you hear some static in the background, I have cats and I have a kitten that's growing and she's in a tunnel right now. And she just thinks it's fun and funny that she's in this tunnel. So if you hear that static, that's what it is. So, but she's trying to behave, I think.
No, it's completely normal. Cats are always curious with what they are.
Yeah, that they are.
Yeah, we were talking before too at how even our students, I travel with different students, and almost everybody has a pet nowadays, especially after the pandemic. I think everybody got a pet.
Sure.
So we always have, the students will have their dog, sometimes their cat will just stay by the piano and just hang out while we're having our lessons. So it's okay, we're used to
it. Thanks. So tell us a little bit more about where you're located, what you do. You teach in Boca.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'm in Boca Raton, and I focus more on piano lessons itself, just working with younger kids. I had it for a moment. I was trying lessons at a studio where students could come to the location here. But throughout the past few years, there's just so much more demand that I would get parents where they want a teacher to come to their house. And you see how things are going along with that too. Not too many people like to go to the stores anymore. They buy everything on Amazon. Everything's online. Anything to make it more convenient. So likewise, I had a lot more demand of parents asking for lessons in home. So I transitioned just to only in-home lessons now, which is what I do. So yeah, I travel in the Boca Raton area. All my students are, around like 95 to like the ocean on the east side of Boca Raton. And yeah, no, it's a lovely work to do. You never work a day of your life if you're doing what you enjoy. So I definitely enjoy it.
That's true. Now, what is the age range for your students?
Yeah, for me personally, most of my students are anywhere between like 7 to 14 when they begin. I've had some adult students in the past. Just right now, I happen not to have any adult students. Most adults, it's great. I think it's great if you can have adult lessons. They pick up so quickly. The only problem is, as adults, we know we have so many other priorities in our lives and we get busy. So working with young ones as a teacher, it's a little bit more reliable that we have study lessons every week. So I do focus on young ones with education.
Okay. And then when you start with a student, we each have our own technique, our own way of teaching. Do you go with the John Thompson books? Do you do the Faber books? Do you have a preference, or do you just kind of have your own style?
Oh, well, I mean, I can kind of show you. I have my iPad with me. I mean, I do this with all the parents.
Okay.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting we're going to go over this, but that's fine. So I literally have everything organized digitally. And just a quick backstory, like before I switched to everything being digital, it happened right before the pandemic. I was looking at, my shelves. I had a bunch of shelves in the back, just stocked with thousands of pages of sheet music. And I was thinking about turning it digital since I traveled to my students. So I sent all my music to a company. They scanned it all. They made it digital. Then I had
Oh,
all of my
nice.
sheet music digital on my iPad. And then the pandemic hit. And I was like, oh, perfect. I have all my music already. I can share it online. So that's what I have here. So for the first lesson, I actually have like a little folder on Dropbox. And I always send this to the parents. They can print out a copy too. So the first points I like to go over is I have like a little interview where I'll ask the
Mhm.
student different questions, get to know everybody,
Oh,
uh,
nice.
figure out what their goals are, and really just try to get the student to open up first. That's what I like to try first, because if you go straight to music, they tend to be a little shy about it. You want to approach them so they can open up. And then at the same time, you get to talk to the parents, figure out their goals. I like the parents to sit on the first lesson so they can see how lessons are like. But yeah, usually the first things I start off with, I just have a few points that I keep it really easy. Starting off with finger numbers. Learn your finger numbers first. That's very simple. We'll go into some basics, what your letters are on the piano. And then from there, I'll either just show them one or two songs and have them playing songs right away. Something simple. Mary Had a Little Lamb. We have our finger numbers, help you find your place. Then we can try
Sure.
something harder, maybe even two hands if we can try finger numbers with like Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. But I just try to show them things like that for the first time, make it fun, show them a little bit of my skills too, what kind of songs I know, what kind of songs they might want to learn. And I always try to leave them with the first lesson as having goals. Like, what are your goals that you want to accomplish? Do you want to play certain songs, maybe classical pieces? Maybe it's pop songs or Disney songs, but make a list. If they have a list of goals where they want to go, it helps them to be a little bit more inspired of knowing where they want to go rather than, oh, this is just going to be a weekly piano lesson. So it just gives them a little bit more direction. So that's personally how I do it. As far as method books, there's a few different approaches. It depends on the student, what the parents are looking for. But there's usually Alfred Premier Piano Course. That's one that I like with younger students. It has pictures to help them have it a little bit more fun. It starts with the left hand first. So I like some of those principles, but sometimes I'll have it maybe teenage students. They don't need something that's as childish. So I'll use
Sure.
a different, maybe an adult course of an express piano book, or sometimes the piano favor. So it really just depends on the student, their goals, what they're looking for. For me, any method book works. It's what you add to it. What other techniques are you working on? How are you going to approach your strength, your skills with scales? Maybe working on hand and exercises, and then just incorporating different classical pieces by level, and then other fun songs that they want to learn, and just have a well-rounded way of weekly practice rather than just one song in a book or one or two songs. It's a little bit more
Sure.
that they work on.
That's great. That's great. And then with your kids, for our listeners out there, do you do a half-hour lesson or an hour lesson, or it depends on the age?
So for me, it's a little bit different because I only travel to my students. I just have a flat rate, like standard package that I give everybody, and
Okay.
I do 45-minute lessons.
Okay.
So if there's, let's say, two kids in the family and they both want to share the 45-minute lesson, take turns, that's fine, however they want to do it. But 45-minute lessons is usually what I recommend. It gives you enough time to maybe break it into sections of maybe 15 minutes of warm-ups and scales. Maybe then we can do 30 minutes of your main lesson, and then 15 minutes of maybe something that we're working on of a classical piece or anything else. So I try to break it up into those, leaving the main area for the main lesson. But yeah, if there's families that want to share the lesson, I'm always fine with that too. But the reason I kind of organize it that way is just with my schedule, because I have to drive to every student. I'll
Of
do,
course.
let's say, my first class at 3 o'clock. We'll have a 45-minute lesson. And then once that lesson's over at 3:45, now I have 15 minutes to get to my next class at 4.
Sure.
So every hour I have a different class. So that's
Well,
just how I
that's
have it
smart.
organized.
Yeah, that's smart. Now, for our listeners that are local and for our listeners that are not local, do you do Zoom lessons as well?
I was doing it during the pandemic, and I'll do it maybe. I had surgery in September, so we had to connect on Zoom. But for the
Okay.
most part, no, I don't do Zoom lessons. Again, I've had a lot more demand of just in-person lessons and home. If there's somebody who really needs it, maybe we could do something at nighttime after I get back from my other classes. But I focus
Mhm.
more on in-person lessons.
And for those who would like to get in touch with you and schedule a lesson or find out more about how you teach, what would be the easiest way for them to connect with you?
My cell phone number always works, but I also have a website that a lot of people use. On the website, right there, you can just check availability, request a trial lesson, and select what days, times work best for you. And if I'm not available, I always have other teachers I'm glad to recommend too.
So we have, being that we're live and we're on the television platform per se, we also have radio that we're being streamed into. So for those of us that cannot see us, please share with us the name that you use to log in to find you.
Oh, you mean the website?
Yeah. Yes.
No, so my website is just the initials of my name. So Jovian Martinez. My website's named JM Piano. And yeah, on that website, it's just, we tried to make it very modern and easy to use. So all my information's on there for available for booking for events, or if it's, requesting as a teacher. But the goal that I have, and I talked to you about it before, I get so much different information if it's people who are calling me to either sell a piano, which is not something that I do, or sometimes, hiring musicians, they want to have a quartet of musicians to play at a wedding with strings. I don't play strings. It's not what I do. But a lot of people still contact me through the website. So I think the goal that I'm trying to have over time is I'm trying to make it more of like a one-stop shop for everything piano related. So if you come to this site locally, hey, you can find all the different piano teachers, the top piano teachers in our area locally. Or, hey, you can find a list of different musicians that are available for weddings. Or you can find piano tuners. Or, hey, these are all the different piano stores in our area. These are different books you can buy. Oh, you want a keyboard instead of an acoustic piano? Well, here's Amazon links to all the different keyboards I would recommend for beginners or for advanced. So I'm just trying to make it a one place for everybody that, any piano related questions, they can find what they're looking for there.
That's great. And I want to talk more about that, but I want to detour a little bit. Do you, being that you're a piano teacher, do you also perform, or is that not in your schedule?
No, I do performances, not as often. I got contacted the other day to play in Meisner Park.
Okay.
But I really prioritize my student schedules. So they were
Sure.
contacting me to perform like on a Tuesday at like 6 o'clock, but that's right when I still have a few other lessons until like 9 o'clock at night. So of course I'm going to put a priority to my students, especially because what I have the arrangement with the parents is that they lock in, they prepay for a whole semester. So
Sure.
there's 19 lessons in a semester, and I try to do my best to not cancel any of those. So sometimes, a lot of opportunities I do have to turn them down, but I'll pass them forward to other musicians that I know if I'm not able to. But I did have a nice privilege to work in the summertime. I got to assist a choir director with teaching the choir how to play notes or sing their notes and just double checking everything on the piano. So that was a really fun project that we did in the summer. But every once in a while, I'll try to perform if I can. But I probably need to perform now more often. I haven't been doing it as often as I would like to.
But like you said, you have your priority, and as a teacher myself too, that is my priority, because being a teacher, for those that are not teachers, it's a wonderful exchange, because we not only are, I speak for myself, not only am I working with my student, but we're building a relationship where we can understand each other. And so that when, I'm teaching, again, I'm speaking for myself, when I'm teaching them piano, I'm understanding them where they're at. So I'm kind of growing with them, because I'm kind of connect with them where they're at. And so building that relationship and not having outside influences break that, because it's a commitment that, it's our passion, but it's a commitment we make because it's what we do.
Exactly. And that's the difference too of being a full-time teacher. That is your focus. I mean, your main job is working with your students. It's what you love to do, but that is your main priority, rather than having other people who they have their 9-to-5 jobs, or maybe they do other things and then they teach on the side. It's different. So when you're a teacher full-time, that should always take priority.
Yes. Or even if you perform out, which I get to do sometimes, and you do as well, it's still whether it's children. I have adult students also. So no matter who it is, my students come first. That's the priority, because they are, my students are with me for a long time. I'm sure yours are too. And so it's a gift that keeps giving itself both ways. We're teaching, we're influencing, and then we learn from the students too. Again, speaking for myself. So I think it's a wonderful, I'm not going to say job. It's not a job, but it's a wonderful profession to be in. And it's a wonderful space to have this opportunity to be that person to inspire and and you are as well. And with that being said, I know for so many years, Jovian, you have had me on your website. We met once, or I saw an email or something from you, and you said, yes, I'm going to put you on my website. You have done so much for our community, not only in Boca, but all of South Florida. There are so many teachers in so many different areas that you help promote just because. And that's such a gift that you share with us. And it's so kind of you. And I can't say enough about the generosity that you've given to our community in offering this. Can you kind of touched on it a little bit, but can you go a little bit more in depth as far as this website that you have that all of the teachers get to be on?
Yeah, of course, you're welcome to see the website yourself. It's called jm-piano.com. And if you go to teachers, we just have a list of all the different teachers that we could find that are actively teaching in the area. I can tell you, to make a long story short, I made it more out of laziness, because every time I would get other parents who were to call me that are outside of my area — I only teach in Boca, I'm getting calls in Palm Beach and Jupiter or down in Coral Springs, and I don't teach in those areas. So rather than, oh, let me help you find a teacher and contact somebody directly who's in that area, I just found it a lot easier. Well, hey, you know what? Here's a directory of all the teachers. If you're in this city, call these. So it was more to save my time. Ultimately, that was the main reason. But at the same time, if there's possible leads that can go to other teachers, a lot of teachers don't even have a website. They don't have any way that they would get that lead. So if you can share that, with somebody else, then definitely it would be a good help for them too.
Yes, and I noticed this morning when I posted for our show, it was hashtag jmpiano.com. And so if you're tuning in and not watching, because it is posted on our show today on the viewer side, but on the audio side, again, it's hashtag jmpiano.com. And as you mentioned earlier, it's a huge gift to help advertise. It's a huge, even though it was kind of something that you did on the fly by just making your life easier, you help so many other people by doing that. That's such an inspiration to share. And I don't know if inspiration is the right word, but it's not everybody does that. So, it's just so nice that you've done that. It's very kind. Very, very kind.
I'm glad to do so. And there's other places, you search on Google, you're looking for piano teachers. You might find things like MTNA, for example, has a Find a Teacher. You can search their directory by zip code. We also have the Broward County Music Teachers Association has a great directory, as well as Palm Beach. There are some things that I find, for example, if you're looking for a teacher for the Palm Beach directory, it only works if you're on a computer, but if you go to a cell phone, it won't work. So I also checked. So all the teachers that we have on there, I've called everybody individually. A lot of numbers, unfortunately, are teachers who are retired.
You have said,
anymore, or they've moved away, or the numbers are disconnected. So even though there's a lot of other, information you can find from other places, I've made sure that all the teachers on there, like the top 40 teachers that we have in South Florida that are actively teaching, they're accepting students, and their phone numbers are working. So it's taken a little bit of time to build everything. It's not something I did so much on the fly. It did take some time to organize it.
I'm sure it's a big website. It's not just, line. I mean, you really went in depth when you go to the website. You can see that you put the time into it, is what I mean. So for listeners out there that may not be in Florida, I would have to think that there's websites in other states and other communities. What would you suggest for our listeners if they're listening in Wisconsin or they're listening in North Dakota? What would be the best way to maybe find a piano teacher in their neighborhood?
For me, what I've found, and I've had multiple students where they either move to another state like New York, I always recommend the Music Teachers National Association. So on their website, itself, you could type in your zip code or what state or city you're in, and you can see a list of all the different teachers, not just piano. You can look up any instrument, and they'll show you all the teachers by area. Again, a lot of teachers might be retired, but at least you'll have a few numbers that you can contact. Or if you're a teacher yourself trying to help another family, you can take the initiative to help make a few calls and see who's available. But yeah, definitely I would recommend the Music Teachers National Association. It works across the whole country. There's a few other places. I know Royal Conservatory of Music has a directory too, but it's a very limited amount of teachers. I think they're more based in Canada. What else do we have? There's another one I was thinking of. But yeah, I would say mainly those two. Oh, there's also places you can do things like Thumbtack, lessons.com. There's still some teachers that are on there. I do find the majority though are teachers who teach online on those platforms. So you might search for, let's say you're looking for lessons in Florida here, and even though you use Thumbtack, the top teachers that will come up, it says Florida, but then when you try to book them, they're actually in New York, but they'll teach you in Florida online. So it's a little misleading on those aspects. So that's why I always recommend things like the Music Teachers National Association.
Great. And you mentioned earlier too, and I agree with you, there's sometimes when I have students that are not well, maybe they're home not feeling great, but they still want to take a lesson, it'll be a Zoom lesson instead of a one-on-one. However, there's how would I say it? There's nothing like that one-on-one lesson. It's not the same when it's online. It's just a beautiful opportunity to get to work one-on-one with a teacher, because it's so much more easier, because you really get to know, again, building relationships. And I highly recommend the one-on-one, although I will say I too take lessons online also, but I get to connect with the teacher sometimes because I still take lessons. But what are your thoughts on, of course, you do more live lessons than online. And when we were going through the COVID, we all had to make exceptions.
Exactly. I can be upfront. I'm not a fan of online. It will never compare to being in person, especially with beginner students. When you need to help a student fix their hand placement because they're not sure if they're on the wrong letter, they think they're in C position, but they're not. It's much easier to help correct those little details in person, their posture. A lot of different details come into effect. You can see and note if their fingers patterns are being used or crossing with the right technique. A lot of things that might be overlooked online with maybe glitches or a lot of moments where things are freezing online. But again, online is still great too. When I was teaching during the pandemic, I tried to make it as fun as possible for the kids. So I would have one camera where I could speak to them, but then I'd have another camera facing downwards, something like this. I had another one right on the piano, so they can see the fingers of what you were playing. And then I'd have another camera, which would just be my whiteboard. So on my iPad, I would write down, if we're taking any notes, a theory lesson. If we're working on sheet music, I'd already have the sheet music there digitally, write any additional notes, and I can send them after a PDF copy of what we learned on with the annotations. So I tried my best to make it as, interesting as possible for the students, so they have multiple angles they could learn from. And of course, there's also games. I find games is such a necessity for young ones to keep their focus and keep practicing. I love using musictheory.net. And if you download the app, there's one that's called Tenuto. You can customize different music theory games of something simple like sight reading one note at a time. And I could do that through Zoom. I could pop up on the screen and they can go ahead and tell me the answers, and we can work on our notes. So using all of those features definitely helped me a lot to teach on Zoom, but 1,000%, I still definitely prefer teaching in person.
No, I know what my answer is. I want the audience to hear your answer. If you have a new student that's signing up, and I get this all the time, they either they don't have a keyboard, they don't have a piano, and then your student comes to you and says, should we get a piano? What is usually your response?
So I think the level of dedication that the parents show from the beginning of having an instrument, it also shows how serious they are, because a child might not be too serious about something. They're young. They might not even know what they want yet. But you don't have to invest in buying a grand piano from the first lesson. That's not the point. If you're able to, hey, then by all means, that's better. That's great. But yeah, some parents decide they want to start off with a simple keyboard. You can find either a used keyboard online, or sometimes like on Facebook marketplaces, you might even find an acoustic piano maybe for a cheap price. But yeah, starting with something simple, even if it's not 88 keys, I'm okay with that, as long as it's just as you're starting out. But once students reach around level 2, you start working on a lot more notes that are on the really high end and the low end of the piano, and you need all full 88 keys. So I always give parents the options. If you want to buy a keyboard, just make sure it's 88 keys and that it's weighted, because a lot of keyboards are very flimsy. They don't have weight. And I'm sure you've seen it before. If kids are working on a keyboard where there's no weight to it and they try to transition to a real acoustic piano, they're not able to play their pieces most of the time. It's too heavy. They can't handle it. So you always need weight behind the keys if you're going to get a keyboard, or getting an acoustic piano. If it's upright, an upright piano is going to save you a lot. They tend to go for maybe $2,000 on average. So you can always find something, sometimes even $100. I see them on Facebook sometimes, just a parent getting rid of them. So you can definitely get a good deal on something. Just, make sure it's in okay condition. Sometimes they're not in the best condition, but yeah, 88 keys and weighted. That's my only recommendation.
Yeah, I've had a lot of students ask, and I usually say, we'll start off with a keyboard, something that's affordable, less than $100. And then as the child grows, as I'm thinking young, if it's something that they continue to grow with, then definitely make the investment. And like you said, Marketplace is a fabulous place to find a piano. A lot of times people are retired and they just don't want the piano anymore, or families have grown up and it's sitting in the house collecting dust, and just pick it up, and then you have a mover come and you just pay for it to be moved.
Exactly. Again, a lot of piano dealer stores are not going to like that. They're not going to recommend it, because they have a business to run too. Of course, if you are ever going to buy a piano that way, I think at least, like I tell my students, just always consult me. Send me some pictures, videos. Sometimes you have people that aren't taking care of it. Maybe they just left it in their garage and it's gotten so much humidity, or maybe the soundboard is cracked. So maybe as soon as you look at it in front, it might look fine. But you have to make sure of a few other things to get a good quality piano that you're paying for, which again, that's why a lot of people go with an actual piano dealership or a place that sells pianos. They make sure it's in good conditions. So you have to kind of weigh the pros and cons when you make a decision. But if you have somebody that you can consult with, a teacher, like yourself, and they want to send you some videos, just making sure this piano looks okay, I think that's usually a pretty safe choice as well, if you're trying to find something cheap.
And it's so true. I'll take myself as an example. Years ago, I looked on Marketplace, and I fell in love with the piano, and it was left in a church, and the church was more of a home style. And they said they just wanted to get rid of it. And I go, oh yeah, I'll take it. And even for myself as a music teacher, I didn't even think. I go, oh, well, I can have it tuned and fixed, and brought it home. The piano was over 70 years old, and it was not in the best of shape. And I was like, shame on me. I should know better. So when I got another piano, I did a little bit more investigating and went and tried it out myself, and contacted my piano tuner, had him on video. And so did a little bit more in-depth look into the keyboard and the inside of the piano, because it's so important. Even me as a piano teacher for playing over 45 years and teaching over 20, unless you go through the experience of it, you really don't think about the I can't say the word, all the details that are involved in what makes a piano work. And I know because I know this from Tobias Hamilton from Hamilton Pianos, there are over 10,000 pieces, even the littlest of pieces, that in a piano. You're a piano tuner, more than I know. So, when you go to buy a piano, it's not just, okay, yeah, don't do what I did. Really look into what you're buying. And yeah, Hamilton Pianos, Bob's organs, and then I don't know, there's Yamaha store up in Jupiter. I don't know what you have down in Boca. I'm sure there's music.
We only have the Steinway Gallery, which I believe they just changed their name to just the piano gallery. That's what they have now. Since Steinway, actually, they're moving corporate to downtown Palm Beach.
Okay.
So we're gonna have a new Steinway in Palm Beach, which should be nice.
Yay.
But yeah, those are most of the main stores. I mean, there's Showcase in Pompano as well. I was talking to the owner. Unfortunately, it seems like they're going to be closing soon. There is a lot of decline that people aren't buying acoustic pianos anymore, and a lot of acoustic piano stores have been closing. So you do see a lot of things are moving towards more digital, and with reason you get it, but I hope we still have people keep acoustic pianos alive in the area, because it never compares to something digital. But as
No.
you're saying before, if you're going to get a piano, there's a few things you want to check. And I can tell you, a piano tuner, I've seen some pianos that are pretty disgusting. Like, we found termites inside of pianos, and
Oh,
yeah, if you don't want to move something like that into your house. So that's why you always have to make sure that it's being maintained, it's being taken care of. And rather than just open up and seeing that the keys look okay, always open up inside of the piano. Make sure that the strings are fine.
yeah.
You can easily see if it's in good conditions. If you see a lot of cobwebs and a lot of problems, and especially rust. I have one of my friends. They bought a piano for
Excuse
like
me.
$400. They thought they got a good deal. When I looked at it to tune it for them, it was missing so many strings. It was covered in rust, all the strings.
Oh, wow.
And I talked to another piano tuner that I know in the area to see. I always get advice from him, Andy Lustig, and he saw it and he's like, "This is just trash. This needs to go in the garbage." Yeah, the cost to fix all of those strings would cost thousands. So sometimes it's not even worth it, and it's just because some people keep it in poor conditions. So again, always double check what you're going to buy.
Now, if somebody wants to contact you to tune their piano, do you just stay in Boca? Do you travel a little bit for that?
I'll travel a little more for piano tuning, so I just stay in the South Florida area. Again, because I only tune in the mornings, I have a little bit more liberty with time. But yeah, usually I try to have my last tuning appointment maybe by like 11 o'clock in the afternoon, because after that I'll just be focusing on teaching the rest of the day. So yeah, no, anywhere between I guess like Jupiter to Deerfield is usually the area that I'll tune in.
And again, for our audience, what is a good way to contact you if they want their piano tuned?
I mean, you can use my phone number on my website. I have a button also that you can request a tuning. And again, if I'm not available, I'm always glad to recommend a few other tuners too.
And would you be so kind as to share your number, because we don't have that posted? We have your website posted.
Sure.
But,
My phone number is 561-907-7310.
okay, great. And so you teach piano, you tune pianos, and you're in Boca. You went a little bit into sharing with us, you started very young. Did you have inspirations when it came to your growth as a musician?
Inspiration of maybe other musicians, right?
Sure.
Yeah, I can tell you. So I can tell you off the bat, my favorite musician as far as a pianist goes, not a classical musician, actually. Well, he plays some classical, but maybe you've heard of John Schmidt. He's an amazing performer. When I was in 10th grade, I want to say, is when I first saw his video. I think he just came out they have a page on YouTube, the Piano Guys. I'm sure you recognize him as the Piano Guys.
Yes, I know the Piano Guys.
So John Schmidt, he did a cover with the cellist of Taylor Swift "Love Story" and Coldplay song. And when I saw him perform, I've never seen anybody play piano like him, because he enjoys music so much. You'll see him dance. He is dancing. Any song you see, if you watch him, he's always dancing when he plays the piano. He gives it so much life. So inspirations to perform, definitely. I got so motivated, I tried to find the sheet music for that song when I was in school, and I couldn't find it. So I had to learn everything by ear. And I picked it up with another colleague of mine, Barry Folsami, which now he's in the Canada Orchestra. That's where he's performing symphonic. And yes, we did an awesome cover when we were back in school about that. But yeah, John Schmidt has always been one of the musicians who's always inspired me. I wish I could play like him. Maybe one day I can get close, but definitely he's an amazing performer.
Oh, great. Yeah, there are inspirations out there, and as a teacher, you can be assured that you're an inspiration to someone else also, with what you're doing and how you play. And
yeah, I think that's one of the parts as being a teacher and why you do it, because somebody inspired you, and you want to pass on that knowledge. I mean, the art. If not, the way things are going right now, AI would just take over, or maybe the arts would continue dying down, and we got to do what we can. It's something that we're passionate about, and when you share that passion with others, it only grows.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And AI cannot replicate the human spirit, or the spirit isn't even human, but the spirit of the human body. not to get too into it, but you can't replicate that. That's just, it's so original and so authentic is what I want to say. But anyway, we have a couple more minutes. Jovian, thank you so much for being available today and being on the show. Is there any last few words that you'd like to share with us, with our audiences that are listening?
I mean, unless there's a certain question that the audience has, I'm not sure. One thing I've always been encouraging local piano teachers about is to get into teaching. I was talking to a few different teachers in the area recently, and I had one who was talking about how they lost their job, and they're thinking about getting back into teaching because they took piano at a conservatory for over a decade past.
Excuse me.
And a few, another teacher as well, that he's working as a teacher. But a lot of times when you're starting out as a teacher, you're getting into it, there's a lot of questions as far as like how to organize your business strategy. And even though you love music as a passion, you still have to make sure you have, good studio policies, that you have to figure out, well, what are your cancellation policies? If a student needs to have a makeup lesson, or, what should my prices even be? So there's a lot of things on the business aspect that I think a lot of times teachers don't know what to do on that regard. So I always like to just kind of like share a few recommendations, especially something as simple as prices. We have a lot of teachers that the standard rate is anywhere between maybe 70 to 100 an hour that you go in the area right now. But sometimes you'll either have somebody who's maybe retired and they don't need that much, so they'll just maybe post for like 50 an hour is what they do. And then you have other parents who start, saying, oh, well, this teacher charges 50. Why don't you do that? And then teachers start to kind of compete with each other and, oh, I'm going to do it for 30 or it'll be less. And that's, at the end of the day, we still have to make a living. So rather than competing with your prices, I always try to recommend, if your prices can be, around the standard rate. I was talking, for example, to Miss Balco the other day. She charges 90 an hour in her studio. That's pretty standard. Over in Boca, most studios charge about 100 an hour. So if you're at least staying around the standard rate, it's going to help yourself out so much rather than trying to compete and lower your prices. And I think that's just, that's my one advice I'd give to teachers. Don't try to lowball yourself. Set your value where it's at. And in the long run, having 20 students at a higher rate is going to give you so much more than having 40 students at half the cost. You're going to have twice as much time for yourself, and you're still getting paid about the same. And at the end of the day, cost of living has gone up. So yeah, that's always my recommendation, because sometimes I've heard of teachers where they're charging 20 an hour and they think, oh, well, the post office charges 20 something an hour. For me, 20 an hour, that's not bad. And I'm talking to somebody who has a bachelor's degree in music. And, so sometimes there's just that aspect of not knowing what it truly costs. Because, you might think 20 an hour sounds great, but we're not teaching 8 hours a day. There's usually maybe 4 to 5 hours that we can teach because, kids get out of school at around 3 o'clock. So you have to make sure you're charging enough that you can make ends meet and be able to pay your bills. So there's nothing wrong with staying around the standard rate. So that's one of my points I always like to share with teachers.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Jovian, for making the time for today. Thank you for being such an inspiration in the community, and to all the South Florida teachers, me included. I so appreciate the time and the effort that you put into, especially your comments that you made. It's just so helpful and so supportive, and the community is a better place because you're in it. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. Always a pleasure.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you, Jovian. We will be in touch soon. And we have a couple minutes left, and I look forward to finishing off our show today by saying thank you for being a part of the Sound of Gold. And as you know, my whole purpose for doing this is to keep music alive, to keep the business of having real instruments and real people playing them. I mean, that's what it's all about. That's where, I don't know, for me as a musician, that's where my heart is. So stay well, stay healthy, stay happy, and join me next week to find out who my guest will be.